Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's been so long since I've posted. It's been like what, a year? I pretty much scrapped this entire. I literally just played that audio back and I hate how this like looks right here. Like that's so disgusting to me. So, there's a few things in this world Robin loves. I love K-pop. I love dancing. I love makeup. And I fucking love horror movies. So, with that being said, we are going to be talking about 2026's Obsession. Yeah. On my little computer. I feel so fucking professional. So first things first, I'm going to say this. I think this is such a great movie. I actually saw it twice. I saw it the first time with another person, and the second time I went alone just as like a small refresher for this video. Who comes up with this shit? Like it was so good. Production alone, it was like really good. Like I love how like it was edited and how it was also shot. They played a lot with like shadow and light, which makes like such a difference, to be honest. I also want to say like the actors, like especially like Nikki's actress, Indy. I'm gonna fuck this up. Never ready. I'm so sorry. I already know. I said that all types of fucking wrong. I think she really put her pussy into this fucking performance. Like it was so good. Like she was able to take one character and turn it into two without making it so unbelievable or like overly like cartoonish. I also need her in more like horror movies, and like that is a very high compliment because she made me so fucking uncomfortable. I genuinely like felt bad for her because they overly played in her face. And unfortunately, with that being said, there were a few parts where I was like, ooh, kind of relatable, queen. I don't know. I don't like that. So please bear with me. This movie was honestly just like very wow. Upon going into this film, you'll probably assume, oh, this is a possession film. I don't think it is. The director and writer, Curry Barker even confirmed, like, it was, like, not like a possession. It's not like an entity type of film. Mama, I was uncomfortable. Because everyone did like such a good job as like playing their characters, it made me like it was easier for me to like sympathize with like the character of Nikki, because like I could not imagine these people playing in my motherfucking face and not being able to fully do anything about it until like I tweak the fuck out. There are unfortunately like a few parts where I felt a little seen, a little heard. With a film like this, there's like a lot of layers, especially if you're someone who's on the internet. You can tell like the director's on the fucking internet, like the director's a young hoe, especially like some things that we see like online discourse, especially if we're talking about things like the man versus bear conversation, the male loneliness epidemic. That's not funny. Robin, that's not funny. Dating culture in the 2020s, and like dialogues and monologues that we hear from like our characters. There's like so much to it, and like I can really appreciate that, especially as like a literature bitch. I don't know. I just love being a thought daughter. Also, if you're someone who's like into like spirituality, like witchcraft and stuff like that, or like you practice or interested in practice, or if you just like see discourse or whatever, we also hear like warnings that go against like love spells and obsession spells, and like that also adds into the movie. They're said to backfire, and that they're also dangerous, and they're also fucked up because you're attempting to take away someone's autonomy so they can, want you back. When, girl, they probably don't. Well, here's the thing. You don't know if they don't, if you don't, talk to people. Be a fucking adult. A lot of the events would not have happened if people were just fucking adults. So speaking of online, that is where I was first introduced to this film, because a lot of people were talking about it on TikTok and also Twitter upon like its first release. When like something is spoken about on like the internet and like social media, only smart people understood what the fuck was happening in this movie. And like that's not me trying to be like hateful. You can tell who got it and who didn't get it. I don't understand how you can sit through like an hour and 45-minute movie and not tell what the fuck is going on and who the fuck the problem is. Yeah, so if I had to give this a rating, personally, I give it a 5 out of 5. And it also felt like very in the now. Like I feel like this is a movie that can carry on. I'm not saying it's a classic. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But for somebody, this is going to be a classic. I fuck with that. This can either be a perfect date night film, or perfect I hate that nigga film. This is where we are going to begin our recap. So, if you do not want to be spoiled, if you plan on seeing this film and you don't want me to fuck it up for you, I suggest you stop watching this part. You go watch the movie. Oh, by any means that you want to. I'm not, you know, I'm not saying anything, but watch it or skip to the end for my final thoughts. In the opening scene, we meet Bear. He's one of our main characters. I will say Bear is very mid, and he is with his friend Ian, who is also very mid. And we see Bear attempting to express his feelings, and we find out the lady he's expressing these feelings to is some random ass waitress who's just trying to get her tips. Like, girl, get up at Slay's face. And we find out that Bear likes his friend Nikki. Well, friend slash coworker Nikki. They also went to school together. Keep that in mind. Ian fucking sucks as a friend. He purposely gave Bear this shitty ass advice and told his quote unquote friend to tell this lady, to call this lady Freaky Nikki, knowing she was not gonna fuck with that shit at all. He said, be mean to her. I'm gonna let you all know something right here, right now. Do not do that mean shit, because nobody's really fucking with that. If you are someone that fucks with that, like, cool, good for you, but not everybody's rocking with that. Like, we gotta be so fucking serious, especially if you know, like, someone's sensitive about shit like that. And within this conversation between Bear and Ian, Bear is telling him that he's initially, like, trying to plot on Nikki during trivia night. That says enough about what type of film this is. And Ian is against it because he doesn't want the vibes killed, because, and I quote, he wakes up rock hard on Wednesdays thinking about trivia night. That's not my words, those are his words. But Bear don't give a fuck about none of that, because he's going to do that shit anyway. It is now cut to later, and we are in Bear's home, where we hear the TV. This, just by looking at Bear's home and, like, not even being in it for like 30 seconds, you can definitely tell, like, Bear's a lonely ass nigga. Within the scene, unfortunately, we see Bear's cat, Big Sandy, the big part, I just had gotten into Bear's oxys and died from consuming them. Right off the bat, I will say, I wasn't fucking with that. And I wasn't fucking with that. I wasn't fucking with Bear. At first, I was like, okay, Bear, you're just a guy. You're just a guy. You're just a very mid man who doesn't know how to express his feelings. Nothing new. Not surprised. But no, jackass. Who the fuck leaves out oxys? And when Bear comes home to see Sandy on the floor, dead, he says, how'd you get into these? Well, last time I checked, the girl can't. What the fuck you mean, how'd you get into these? Nigga, you left them out. Bear, please be so serious. So Bear cleans up in that area. He put the fucking oxys away. Cut to his room. He receives a phone call from Nikki, and during this call, it honestly just gave, like, bestie slash work short catching up. Bear's acting like he's okay, or like he had like a regular ass day. Also, during this call, we learned that Nikki had put in her 2 weeks at her little funky job at the instrument store. I get it. I cannot stand a customer service job. Like, with this being said, Nikki convinces Bear to go out with the rest of the friend group for trivia night, because at first Bear was like, I'm not going to go. Like, obviously he's in grief, he's in mourning, so he wasn't going to go, but she convinces him. And when their call finally ends, we see slash hear Bear, like, crying. It sounds like he's letting out a grief cry, but no, girl, it's not a grief cry. He's crying because Nikki is leaving, and he's actively saying, why can't you just want me back nonsense? Like, this cat did not just die. And obviously, like, that news alone, like, I understand your friends, you don't want your see, like, your friend, like, go away, you might not ever see them again, because I honestly think, like, this is probably, like, the only, like, real vicinity Bear would have to Nikki after any type of schooling. I just don't see them being, like, besties for the resties. Like, like, let's go get brunch every single Sunday. Like, I don't see that for them. The time was running out. In this scene, we also learned that Nikki's crystal necklace had fallen down the drain. How the fuck does that happen? I don't know. How big is your drain? And right off the bat, that's a bad sign. That's how we should have known like some shit was going to go down in this movie. We don't know what type of crystal it is, but we can assume. I'm leaning more towards like a protection crystal, like a tiger's eye or an obsidian, or even like a black tourmaline. But we will talk about tiger's eye a little bit further on in this video. So after this point, we can tell that homegirl is for real not going to get any type of peace or protection for like the rest of this film as soon as that necklace went down that fucking drain. Cut to the next scene. Before their little outing, Bear stops at a crystal shop to buy Nikki a new necklace since she had lost hers. And of course, he doesn't know what to look for. So he asked for some assistance from the diva of the shop. She like also like threw out some like rocks like amethyst, rose quartz, and citrine. You know, pretty chill rocks. Great suggestions. If I was Bear, I would have gone with the citrine, but you know, I'm smart. But Bear continues to look around and he finds a small little stand with these little boxes with the little branches in it called a one wish willow. So with a one wish willow, you're meant to say a wish and then you're going to break the branch / stick in half. You only get one wish, which is why it's called a one wish willow. Instead of getting Nikki a crystal necklace to replace her crystal necklace, he got Nikki the fucking one wish willow. You really only had one job. You came in here for one thing. And he didn't get something that she would have wanted or needed, but got something that he thought was cool to give to her. Like, okay, the concept was cool, but what if she didn't believe this was real and like you just gave her some bullshit in a box? So we're gonna cut to trivia night, and this whole scene just gave co-workers who hang out after work. That's okay, of course. They're like talking about the instrument store and like how their boss, who's also Sarah's father, having a Glock in the store safe. At trivia night, we see more of Bear and Nikki's dynamic, and honestly just gave me like close friends. Bear is also a very obvious man, and this is coming from a very obvious girl. And after trivia night, the group parts ways and Bear offers to take Nikki home because everyone else went to go and like do karaoke, go out for another outing, but like Nikki said, girl, I just want to go home. Bear said, girl, I just want to go home. That's doing too much. The group parts ways. Bear takes Nikki home. Nikki's a little turned from their outing. She even asks why, like, Ian is always tries to get everybody, like, sloshed, tries to get everyone fucked up. And Bear's like, maybe he thinks if he can force people to do things, they'll discover it's what they've always wanted. This quote is foreshadowing as we move throughout this film. We can also tell, like, that it makes sense that Bear and Ian are kind of friends. One is more like out there with like their douchiness, which is like obviously Ian, while Bear is more of like a covert douchebag. He like really hides like his like true nature under his like awkwardness and like nice guy demeanor. As they continue their drive, they talk about their job and how customer service sucks until they eventually make it to Nikki's place. Nikki wants to leave because she simply isn't happy, which, girl, completely fair. Like, if I wasn't happy, I'd leave fucking too. And she just wants to do her own thing. Nikki is a writer, and we also find out that she is writing a love story. In the screenplay, we get more of this conversation between Nikki and Bear about the difference between love and romance, because Bear referred to a love story as a romance story. So the difference between love and romance is something that is more so temporary. If we're looking at the screenplay, Nikki more so views romance as a concept that leans towards the imaginary. Romance is when you view love through like rose-colored glasses. It's the extra stuff, it's the dates, it's the gifts, it's the intimacy. When love is something that is much more deeper than that, it is like a true bond, something that isn't easy to break. Can be like such a great thing, can be such a beautiful thing, but it's also more complex. It's standing by somebody when you have hardships, whether it's together or separate. It's seeing people at their absolute lowest and still caring about them. It's the arguments. that aren't meant to break you guys apart, but it's meant to create a stronger foundation and also a chance to expand and create more. And I don't know if I'm just like reading into that or if just like I'm, the thought daughter. I just had to like think about that as we move on throughout like this conversation. It's like really painful because at some point they get like dead ass. They get dead ass serious. Nikki is talking to Bear about Sarah. First of all, spilling Sarah's tea. Girl, fuck you. Why would you do that? That Sarah has a crush on him and that when she has a crush on someone that she doesn't make it obvious. It's giving Nikki is soft launching this friend zoning that's about to fucking happen. Well, that was going to happen in real time. We were actively watching this nigga getting friend zoned in real time. It wasn't clicking for Bear. Bear thought, oh, Nikki is starting to feel me. However, when he tries to express his feelings, he's doing it based on nostalgia and not the now. Nikki's just like viewing it as like, yeah, it's like a friend moment. Nikki just want to go to bed. She was just like, bye, Bear. And with that being said, this nigga turns around and says, Nikki, knowing she just hates that shit. She was just over his ass. So she just tries to go inside. So obviously, because Bear made himself look silly as fuck, he's embarrassed. Like, he reaches into his little book bag and pulls out the one wish willow. When he pulled out this one wish willow, I don't think he thought this was like dead ass real. I think he was just like, fuck yeah, I got nothing else going for me. Let me see if this is gonna work. He says, and I quote, I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in this fucking world. And he breaks the motherfucking stick. Granted, he probably didn't think this was real, but also at the same time, girl, why would you do that? As he's about to like drive off, he sees like Nikki just like standing on her porch, all types of confused and like just like looking like a whole ass shadow person. Oop. It's not when I'm recording. I should not say that. When she's like just standing there, he's kind of like, girl, what the fuck? Until she like turns around and like goes back to the car. And you can tell like there's like a switch that was flipped. And she's like even confused like herself. Like she says like she's the one that lost Sandy. Tries to also like self-correct, but it's just like not coming out right. With this like odd behavior, Nikki is like trying to get Bear up in her crib so they can keep each other company. She's talking about them having a little drink as they chat. It just don't add up. Like Bear thinks like that Nikki's like fucked up because she just doesn't sound like herself. Like he eventually just like passes it off as her being drunk. And at this point, Nikki tells Bear that her dad is dying, and we find out he's dying of cancer. That is meant to like explain for her odd change in behavior. And with that being said, I guess Bear just didn't want to leave her alone to deal with something that heavy. He does take her back to his house. Nikki is still in her strange state of mind, and Bear is just like trying to get her to go to bed. Like maybe that would fix it. Maybe she just like slept off like whatever liquor. She'll be fine in the morning. She's just going through it. That's why she's doing all these things. So boom, Nikki is just like trying to get him to sleep in the bed with her, and like he's like nervous. A, because obviously in like regular day life, Bear gets no play. B, he can clearly tell something just isn't right with her. At some point, he does get up in that bed after she done took her shirt off, and they were about to kiss, or they did kiss, and then like she snapped the fuck out of it. With her like freaking out, it also caused Bear to react, and because of this, Bear just decides to just like sleep on the fucking floor. The next day, we see that Nikki makes a very concerning memorial using Sandy's corpse in the middle of the floor. Like, girl, why the fuck would you do that? Bear is just like, that's very fucked up. I would have said so much more, but Bear is just like, girl, that's fucked up. So the two set off for work, where Ian is kind of just like joshing around with Bear as like he sees him and Nikki come in together. We see Ian and Bear talking, and Bear is explaining to Ian that Nikki is going through it and that she was acting strange the night prior. Ian specifically thinks that she must have been on some drugs. And like during this whole conversation, she's just like staring at them like from the distance as they just talk, just like ear hustling and eye hustling, I guess. So when their shift is over, Ian takes Nikki home and Bear goes his own way. However, while Bear is in his own home chilling, we see a little shadow, and at that shadow, it was Nikki standing at the door. She knocked on the door. She's just like you cannot see her face. That's what I meant by like this movie does like such a good job at playing with like lighting and shadow, because she's standing there talking to Bear. The porch light, I guess the porch light is on, but however, you cannot see this lady's face. And when they're talking, she's like attempting to explain to herself to Bear about the night prior. She said that she was on Molly and that she was just going through it. Nikki then says that she knows that Bear likes her and that she likes him too. And this was the moment that Bear absolutely wanted. Bear wanted to get Nikki without doing any actual work, and he didn't want to be the one to be super vulnerable, and he didn't want to be honest. He wanted everything to just like fall into place for him. So instead of making the first move, it's Nikki like acknowledging his obvious feelings for her, which takes the weight off of his shoulders of having to put in that effort, be so serious. They quote unquote hook up, and then we get a little montage of their cute little ideal relationship moments between the two. This is like very giving fairy tale, and like it really ties into the conversation they had about the difference between romance and love, because this is very like Disney like romance montage moment. And throughout this montage you also see like the people in Bear and Nikki's life not really fucking with it, because it just doesn't look or like feel right, because it just happened all of a sudden and it just does not feel natural to the outside world. So we are now at their little date scene. Oh, the date scene. And everything is going pretty good, and it's like a really cutesy date and all. Like they're having a little sit down dinner, they're being all cutesy, they're being playful with each other, and Nikki wants to know what Bear wants to do with his life. And Bear, he's like a guy that's like very hard to get to know, and he even like mentioned that to Nikki, that at some point she's even said that he was a hard book to read. Like he's not an open person. I also think like Bear also doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, but like that's also fair. Like I'm 24, I'm like Bear's like supposed to be 25. Like I get it. I don't know what the fuck I want to do either. When he told her, like she told him that he was like a hard book to read, she says that means I can read you from the very beginning. And I've said things like this. However, at some point during their dinner, Ian was calling Bear, which kind of irritated Nikki because the first time was fine. However, the second time, that's when she got irritated. Bear ignored it at first, but when it happened again, he decided to pick it up based on the simple fact that he called twice. And during Bear and Ian's conversation, Ian tells Bear that on his date off, Sarah and Nikki were talking about him, and they were talking about Sarah having feelings for Bear and that Nikki only saw him as a brother. Yikes, we could have seen that from a mile away. Ian also tells Bear that Nikki is lying about her father dying of cancer. We also learn like Nikki don't really rock with her father like that. I've read the screenplay and I've also watched the film. Based upon the screenplay, we can assume that her mom and dad's relationship probably affected that the way that she views love, and that honestly is so sad because that happens to so many people, especially if like this is a romance that's not good for either party, or like it just died out and like it was very, very visible. When we're seeing Bear talking to Ian, Nikki is like fine, she's just sitting there, she's like chilling, she's looking over like, you know, awkwardly when you're obviously waiting for someone to be done doing what they're doing. And after like her lie was revealed to Bear, she's like peeking over at Bear as he's still talking to Ian on the phone. When Bear returns to the table, Nikki gives him a tiger's eye that was once her mother's and hers, and that is what I mean by like tiger's eye. When she lost her crystal at the beginning, me personally, if I'm gonna wear a crystal, I'm gonna keep one on me and have one back at the house, you know what I mean? For those who do not know, tiger's eye is used for strength and also like protection, clarity, courage, things along that nature. And like me personally, if I'm going to be completely honest, that is not a crystal eye that is like passed down to me. I would not give that to anybody else. So that's how you know something's really fucking wrong. You're giving that energy that's yours, that's meant for you, to somebody else. And she also like tells Bear that she loves him more than anyone in the entire world. Like, girl, what? Bear is like low-key like shook, a little disturbed because like she's lying. Like he like takes like a little break in her love declaration and like immediately like asked her if her dad really had cancer. We can see like a face crack. Her mask is like now slipping, which I want to say like great face acting by Indy.
Does your dad really have cancer?
No. No, no, no.
What?
No, 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 don't do that! I thought we were having a nice day!
We are. Sit
Why
down.
does it matter? I thought we were having a nice
We are.
day!
Like a little silly, but also like, wow. I thought we were having a good day. Like she literally said, like, don't sit here and do that. We eventually cut to like the bed scene. I will say trigger warning. I will be talking a little bit about obviously SA and just a little bit of heavy things. So if you don't like that, go ahead, skip. I will figure out the timestamp and I'll put that. It just wasn't sex. In this like context, when you're looking at it, it wasn't sex. Like when I think about sex, I think about like fun. Both people should be enjoying, both people should be having fun. And while like during the scene she's like vocalizing her pleasure, it just looks like she's like disassociating and like staring off. You may not perceive it this way, but if you're like looking at it and like really taking like an acknowledgement of like what you're watching versus what you're listening to, you'll probably understand, especially in the context when we are now at the understanding that Nikki is not herself at this point. Both times I watched, I was like very uncomfortable because there were some people laughing like during both viewings, and I'm like, I don't know how you can laugh. This is like a clear instance where you can see and hear like a clear distinction between both the quote unquote real Nikki and the quote unquote wish Nikki. And it also makes it like 100% worse because Bear obviously knows at that point that she's not herself, and he didn't really care. In his mind, this is what he wanted. This is a version of Nikki that is solely created, solely manifested for his love, obsession, and pleasure. Consent is a heavy theme in this film, especially like the effects on others after taking away somebody's autonomy and consent. I'm gonna leave that here. So we soon cut to after, and Bear's in bed and he wakes up at like 3 in the morning. Don't like that. And he notices that Nikki isn't in bed. Oh my god, I don't know how like dark your theaters are, but like the first theater, it was like a bit dark. You could not see her, and then all of a sudden you see this in the corner. Didn't like that. And Bear is like acknowledging that she's in the corner. He's asking why she's over there, and he says, girl, what are you doing? And she said, watching you sleep. No. It was fucking terrifying. Her face is fucking terrifying, and that's simply off the fact that they did Uncanny Valley for Indy's makeup, and Jesus Christ, that shit is fucking terrifying, especially because they played with the fucking shadows of the room. He's in his sweater and she said, smells like you. It's supposed to give cute, like when you think about it, she walks like a creature. Like I don't know, I can't explain it. She like moves around the room like a creature in this scene, and like she said that she couldn't sleep, and she was talking about like her dreams and how like they're basically like really scary, and she said,
I feel like you don't love me as much as I do. Like it's not mutual.
and girl, that was so fucking real. Like I've said similar, and that just made the feeling really worse. Like sitting there watching that, listening to that, and like seeing this uncanny valley face, and like it just made it worse because I'm like, damn, I've said that before. Like that's crazy. Even though it's like very different circumstances, love is something that we all like want to feel at some point. And if you're someone that puts in like so much effort into like a relationship, like this is some real shit. And Wish Nikki's like case, like her sole purpose is to love and be loved by Bear. And like with a single like inkling that he's like slipping away, it probably feels like she's losing her purpose. And also based off of the simple fact, like when you're watching this, like Wish Nikki put in so much more fucking effort than Bear ever did, and it's really fucking nuts. Bear, for some fucking reason, still tries to go to bed after that. What the fuck? I'm not fucking sleeping after that shit. He had his back turned away from her too. First of all, I don't like sleeping with my back turned away any way, shape, form, or how. But you have your back turned after she's acting like this? Fuck no. This is natural selection at this point for Bear. Because what the fuck? And like she eventually does go back to normal. And I think because Bear was so like creeped the fuck out, like he tried to like just get away for a little bit, maybe to just like go into like the living room or something to sleep there. And she yelled at his ass to stay, and that's exactly what the fuck he did. At this point, this is Bear's home. He's right where he wants to fucking be. So in the morning, Bear confronts Nikki about like her behavior the night prior and how she needs to like knock that shit off basically. And Nikki says that she will, and like she also made Bear lunch for work. And when Bear is about to make his exit, he realized that she taped the fuck out of his door. So it was harder for him to leave. I also probably think that's like a tactic too, to also know like when he is trying to leave because of how much fucking noise that door is going to make. I'm just like eating her up. Like Andy is like such a great actress because like we get like a 30-second shot of her just smiling unnervingly and like big as fuck in the same spot like he left her. And she's just standing there and she's smiling. And as we pan down, she starts peeing on the floor. So we now see Bear at work and he's talking to Sarah, and Sarah's like mentioning a little shindig at Ian's and that Bear wasn't fucking invited to. And Bear's also like using this opportunity to talk to Sarah about the conversation she had with Nikki about her friend zoning him initially. And Sarah even says like that it's weird that they're together so quickly after literally like right after they have that conversation. Sarah thinks Nikki is playing in Bear's face. Eventually like their conversation is cut because Sarah's dad is giving her a letter from an art school she applied to. We learn like she didn't get in, and Sarah wants to be an artist, and Bear still tries to be a friend and even says that she can tat him whenever, whether she has a degree or not. I don't know why you need a degree for a tattoo, but you go, girl. When Sarah comes back, oh my god, this part is so gross. Throughout the scene, Bear is eating the lunch Nikki made. She also packed him some pictures in a sticky note. So on the Polaroid, there's one of Bear. It says like you, and then there's one of Bear and Nikki, and like it's Nikki smiling and like Bear's asleep, and she says not me. So Sarah eventually comes back and snatches that motherfucker. The note says something along the lines of, "What's the verdict on Cat?" The sticky note on the Tupperware, this nigga ate a sandy sandwich. He ate his dead fucking cat. I don't understand like how he didn't clock that right away because of rotting cat meat. Obviously, he throws the fuck up. So we now cut to the end of Bear's shift, and Ian asks him for a ride back to his place because I guess like they live close by each other. And he tries to like lie and say he has errands, but Ian's like, we're literally neighbors. Like, come on, let's go. And during their car ride, Ian confronts Bear about his relationship with Nikki, and Ian is basically telling Bear like the whole relationship and just doesn't seem right. It just seems weird. He also says like it seems like really unhealthy, and that like Bear is taking advantage of Nikki, who is like probably going through some like hard shit. And Bear basically talks about how the relationship was something he's always wanted and that Ian knew that too. I will say this, I am in no way, shape, or form an Ian apologist, but I will say he was like one of the only few people to genuinely show some concern about like Nikki is doing. But he does show some like real concern, especially like as an individual who knows like both parties involved. And like if you knew all of the things like Ian probably knows, it probably looks like Bear is taking advantage of Nikki and whatever outsider perceived situation she may be in. So even though Bear wasn't invited to Ian's little shindig due to him looking mad weird because of their relationship, Ian eventually agrees to let him come to the function only, keyword is only, if Nikki didn't show up to see if this relationship is truly healthy and like not codependent. And Ian says that he'll tell Sarah not to show up, so it's like a boys' night. So when Bear eventually makes it home, he kind of just sits in his car, just like mentally preparing himself to go in and telling Nikki She can't cook the fucking cat. However, in his book bag, he still has the One Wish Willow box. He decides to call the number on the box for the customer service. Bear wants to alter his wish, not completely change it. And we find out, like, even if he wanted to cancel it, it's not that simple. The only way to, like, end a wish is to die or to, like, end your shit. So while on the phone, the customer service guy says, "Do you want to talk to real Nikki?" and puts Nikki on the phone, and oh my god, it was just like terrifying screams. If you've been on the internet the way I've been on the internet, it reminds me of that audio of what like hell is supposed to sound like, and like Bear's like scared as fuck, so he just hangs up. Oh, I got like goosebumps. Oh no. He enters to see like Nikki just standing in a pool of her like own bodily functions. She's like covered in her own vomit, which we kind of find out is like stomach bile and like stomach acid because she wasn't like eating. Like she literally has not been taking care of like her own like needs because she's only giving attention to Bear. She's just like waiting for Bear to get home. And I honestly wish we could have like gotten like a scene of like not just like at this scene but like throughout the film of like what it's like when she's by herself and without Bear, while also under being this fucking state, because we only see like her behavior when it's in the proximity of Bear. So this obviously like makes Bear feel very concerned and he's not good hiding it. And like Nikki realizes like she kind of looks and smells like a mess and she feels like embarrassed, so she's trying to like blame it on other things, and she says like she's going to clean herself up. And when she's in the shower, Bear is telling her that she can't cook the fucking cat and that it wasn't okay to never do that shit again, and all she said basically was like cool beans. And Bear still like big himself up to do this shit. He's like telling her that Ian invited him to boys night. As soon as she heard boys night, she stopped that motherfucking shower hard as fuck, and that alone was a warning sign that depending on what else Bear says, it determines if she's going to tweak the fuck out or not. Nikki says that she can go with him, and Bear is still scared as fuck and tries to let her down gently that she can't. And Nikki proceeds to say that Sarah said that she was going, and Bear tells her that Ian disinvited Sarah, so it was just guys. And Nikki just fucking screamed, and Bear's just like scared as fuck, and he tells her that she can come. We like cut to the scene of them now at Ian's, and Ian is literally just like a mid-20s like frat bro, and you can tell that just by how his place looks. Ian is disappointed in Bear because he brought Nikki, and Bear was basically calling Ian out for lying and saying that he wasn't going to invite Sarah or tell Sarah to like not come, but didn't. And in turn, Ian says that Sarah didn't do anything wrong, which fair, but also at the same time, Nikki didn't really do anything wrong that you know of, because you think she's just going through something. So I'm confused. During this little shindig, their guests and our main little friend group of characters are doing a little drinking slash Jenga game. That's fun. And someone had pulled a piece that said swap seats with the someone else, and he decided to swap seats with Bear. And obviously Nikki wants to be by her man, and she's like just like acting like that too. And the guy was like making a joke of like, what kind of spell did you put her under because of like this little clinginess or whatever, and everyone's like laughing. Nikki's just Baja blasting, just like laughing loud as fuck. Like it was like a forced ass laugh, and it's slowly making everyone uncomfortable. Nikki pulls a blog, and she's like basically reading like one of her writings, and this shit was like mad uncomfortable, bro. Her writing was like a weird ass retelling of Hansel and Gretel with like a very scariest incestuous undertone of how like even though Hansel and Gretel are like brother and sister, Gretel wanted more than that. And like I'm using like the screenplay to like refer back to this monologue. Indy improvised a part that says something along the lines of like a love, a one wish willow can't even break. I don't even know. And the whole house uncomfortable. This goes back to like earlier when we were like finding out prior to the wish, like Sarah and Nikki had like that conversation about like how Nikki only viewed Bear as a brother. So now that everyone in the fucking party is uncomfortable, it's time for everyone to get even more uncomfortable, because it's now Bear's turn, and his dare was to kiss the person on his left, which is Sarah. And Nikki wasn't having that shit. She stood the fuck up and she fucking frowned hard as fuck as she just like looked at the two, especially Sarah. Nikki took her ass over to Sarah, scooted her motherfucking chair back so she could be the one to kiss Bear. She kneeled down next to him and waited for that kiss. She also then proceeds to say that nobody will understand what it's like to love someone the way that she loves Bear, and loud as fuck said that they're gonna all die without knowing a type of love like that. And when she tries like to like play off as a joke, nobody is fucking laughing. She just says, okay, fine, I'm not kidding, deal with it. Dead ass as fuck. And like, honestly, she's a key for that. That's unhinged, but that was a fucking key. Everybody's about to go home and talk about you, girl. And also, like, girl, only you and Sarah want Bear. Like, nobody else wants Bear. Now that everyone's, like, trying to get over, like, the obvious awkwardness and uncomfortable vibe in the house, Nikki says, fuck the party and fuck this house. Real Nikki is, like, fully, like, caught herself in, like, Bear's reflection in her eye or some shit. And she has, like, a visceral ass reaction because she thinks, like, the wish Nikki is, like, out to get her. And like she grabs a bottle, breaks that bitch, like she stabs herself in the face. When like the witch Nikki like swaps back in, basically she even like bothered all like that, while the rest of the house is like fucking disturbed. We now cut to like Bear trying to get Nikki some help at a hospital, and like they didn't even take Nikki. We don't hear anything, however it's like it's written as Nikki being refused because of a lack of informed consent because of the state that Nikki's in. And if you think about it, Nikki is literally just like switching in and out of like which Nikki she is. So one minute they're like now back at Bear's place and he's just over it. He's over her. He tries to go to the bathroom and like homegirl asked if she could stand out there and wait for him. Like, girl, no. Bear eventually asked her why she acted the way she did and like basically told her she's being scary and she's becoming like a harm to herself, which is eventually going to turn into a harm to others. He begins to like question her happiness in their relationship, her real happiness, and we can tell like that wish Nikki doesn't know what to do or like how to respond. She like really has no true sense of self. She's not meant for her own happiness. She's meant for Bear's happiness. And then like she called herself Freaky Nikki. Bear's just like officially like over it. And when he's trying to go, Nikki's like, can you at least tell me that you love me? And Bear's just like, let's take some space. Like, you gotta go home. It's normal for couples to take space. This devastates Nikki and she starts tweaking the fuck out. And Barry's just like telling her to be normal and to be Nikki. Wish Nikki is telling him like she can be normal and she can be Nikki. This argument between the two like eventually blows up and Nikki tells Bear to tell her that he loves her. When Bear suggests like they take some time apart, Nikki like obviously isn't having it. She goes into the kitchen, she grabs a knife, she insinuates she'll end her shit, and she does like the scary ass reverse walk, just like tweak the fuck out after Bear tells her that he loves her, and then she flinches at his ass. She punked his ass out. It's now like later in the evening. Bear and Nikki are in bed and Sarah is texting Bear, and Sarah's telling Bear to meet up at the park so they can talk about all the strange shit that's been happening. And when Bear initially declines for obvious reasons, Sarah tells his ass like, either come to me or I'll come to you. Neither of those are good ideas, girl. Bear's hesitant for like the very obvious, but he decides to go. And like as he's like trying to sneak out, we hear real Nikki telling him that wish Nikki was asleep and that she has never been with him. She also asked him to basically kill her because she basically can't take anymore. Like a mercy kill. She's supposed to be moving forward in life and following her passions and goals, but like she's just stuck with this nigga against her will. And then Bear had the motherfucking nerve to say, what's so bad about being with me? And Nikki tells his ass, I was never with you, Bear. Bear just eventually leaves to go meet up with Sarah. Bear fucking sucks. Nikki is asking him to end her suffering. He still made it about himself after he put her in the position to suffer. So we're at the park with Sarah and she's like sitting and chilling in her car. And when Bear arrives, I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm speeding through. I just don't know how much storage I have. Bear arrives and the two begin to talk about Nikki. Sarah tells Bear that she thinks Nikki is basically basically playing in his face and taking advantage of him because she's going through something, which makes sense. She also proceeds to tell him that she really liked him, which he like already knew. And she also like spilled Nikki's tea about her and Ian hooking up on and off for like, I guess like 2 years. Ian cut it off, and she thinks like that's the motivation for Nikki wanting to be with Bear. And during this conversation, Sarah and Bear's like conversation has like a little vibe to it, you know? You can tell like that they're feeling each other. Well, like more so specifically Bear, he's like feeling more of the vibe. Sarah has also like received like her final letter from like an art school, and like Sarah like mentioned that during the game that Nikki tweaked the fuck out at that she was the one on Bear's left, that Bear was supposed to kiss Sarah. And with that said and done, Nikki got her ass. Girl, you want to talk about left so bad, you should look towards your left, because that's exactly where she came from with a brick, and she erased her face like Doodle Bob. Let's just say that. And Sarah did not leave looking done up. And if I was Sarah, if I was seeing everything that was happening in that party, I saw this girl tweak the fuck out. I saw her physically like push me away from kissing her nigga so she could kiss him. Me personally, I just leave that man alone. She didn't deserve that death, especially that brutal over a nigga named Bear. That's number one. Number two, I'm not gonna lie, I would have done the same thing. Nicole, I would have done worse.
I would have done Bear in as well.
Because what do you mean you're going to the park at 2 a.m. and you're supposed to be my man and you're supposed to be my friend? You gonna wish for this girl and you proceed to cheat on her. So Bear's clearly fucking scared. And Nikki said, you wanted this, baby, you wanted this. It's okay. But you're gonna have to help me hide her body. And you know what the fuck Bear did? He helped her hide the motherfucking body in a fucking, I think like a trumpet case, a tuba. I don't fucking know. It's like just a big ass instrument case, and put her in the trunk of her car. And Nikki told Bear, you know what? I can handle this, babe. You go back home. He didn't go back home. He decided to go back to the crystal shop. But before he did, he opened Sarah's letter, and she did get accepted into a school. So he went to the crystal shop to get some help, to tell this business owner like to stop selling this shit to people, and that he's fucking up people's lives. Guy is like, don't come up in this crystal shop with all this fucking energy because you're fucking up the flow and the vibes. And Bear was like trying to seek help. The sales assistant said basically your only choice is to kill yourself or to die. That's the only way to like end your wish. He also told Bear like, this is all your fault. Like the box literally comes with so many warnings. You just decide not to listen to them. And he also tells Bear like another way to probably end the wish is to get someone else to cancel out your wish. So Bear decided to grab a few more of the One Wish Willows, and he decided to go to Ian. When he rushes over to Ian's to get him to wish that he never wished for Nikki to love him so like everything can go back to normal, Bear also mentions that if he did that, Ian would also be able to go back to fucking with Nikki, and that completely threw Ian off, and he suspects that that's the only reason why like Bear and Nikki are together, so as like a form of like get back, I suppose. And in this scene, like Ian is the only person who makes Bear take some form of accountability and tell the truth about what the fuck is happening, because it sounds so fucking crazy, like the concept of like a little fucking branch granting a wish and it fucking you up this bad and fucking someone up this bad. Like, it's unbelievable. Bear gives Ian the One Wish Willow and tries to basically control Ian's wish so Bear could get out of the mess that he made. Ian said, I wish for $1 billion, and that shit fell from the sky, while Bear just falls to his knees on the floor. Honestly, Bear, you're so fucking selfish. Ian was also super fucking realistic, because if I'm having a hard time believing some shit, I would also wish for $1 billion, or like I'd wish for a better economy, something I can live in for real. These people aren't friends like that. However, I do think that if Sarah did not meet up with that nigga at the park, she would still be alive and she probably would have helped him. Bear is defeated as fuck, and he heads home, and when he walks in, he sees the fuckery that Wish Nikki got into. There was like a shrine of them, and there's like a video of Bear playing on the TV, and you just see Sarah's naked corpse just propped up in a chair, as Bear is of course terrified. I'm also fucking terrified because guess where Nikki's at? She's walking around in the fucking shadows like a fucking creature. When she finally reveals herself, she's all types of fucked up, and I just know that house smells fucking crazy. She's covered in blood and her hair's a fucking mess. She's wearing Sarah's clothes. She copied Sarah's tattoos onto herself, mimicking Sarah's hair, and is just puffing the fuck out of a cigarette. Nikki decided to become Sarah. Nikki then told this nigga all up in his face with a gun in her hand she's going to pluck her eyes out and shove the gun barrel up her cootie-cat. And unfortunately, in the spaces that I'm in, that is a compliment, a threat, Instagram caption, and that is also a cry for help. While this is happening, Ian's banging on the door, and then he eventually walks in and he says, dude, I have $1 billion, and without even fucking looking, Nikki got his ass. That solidified it for Bear. Bear fucking knew, like, he had no choice but to kill himself. And like, he was sitting there and holding Nikki and telling her that it was going to be okay and that they'll make it work, before he says that he just needs to go to the bathroom. When he locks himself in, Nikki is still bugging the fuck out, banging on the door, telling him fuck you, telling him to open the door, let her in. And when Bear's in the bathroom, he's planning on just ending his shit right there and then. At first, he like points the gun barrel at his chest. Why would you do that? And then he puts the barrel in his mouth, and then he just couldn't do it, which is fair. And instead of like a painful exit, he went in the cabinet and grabbed the oxys that killed Sandy. Through the door, we hear Nikki in like hysterics before she finally like calms down and says like maybe they should break up. However, we hear the box of the One Wish Willow open because it has like a distinct sound. It plays like a little tune, like those little birthday cards, and we hear a little snap. As we hear the snap, we're seeing Bear take the pills, and in a last minute change of plans, he attempts to throw them up. During this attempt, he stops midway through because Nikki's wish is taking effect in the same way that affected Nikki at the beginning of the film, which is pretty much instantaneously. Bear gets up and walks towards the bathroom, and at this moment, we finally see a mutual love between the two. Both of them are now equally obsessed with each other. They both equally want each other. So as they have like their little moment, Bear officially dies because he didn't get to the chance to throw the pills up, and Nikki is clearly like fucking devastated. And we were about to kind of get a Romeo and Juliet ending because Wish Nikki was planning on ending herself because she lost Bear, which was her reason to exist. So now that like Bear is dead, Nikki is coddling his body. Since we also know like death is the only way the wish can stop taking effect, Nikki eventually snaps out of it. She is obviously fucking mortified. She puts the gun down. She pushes Bear's body off of her, and she's just like looking around like at all like the carnage, just seeing off her like dead friends, and she's like probably playing the events of the entire fucking movie in her head. She just like lets it all out. Like that's the best way I can explain it. She lets it all out. So we had panned down from Nikki on the couch to Bear's body and towards the TV as Forever by the Little Dippers play, as Nikki is screaming and crying hysterically, and she's asking, what did you do? And that is how we end the movie. That was a lot. Watching it twice was a lot, and reading it was a lot. The events in the story could have easily been avoided if Bear just made a better wish, or if he was just honest about his feelings when he had the opportunity to. Like, dude, come on. Like, instead of wishing like she loved you more than anybody in the fucking world, I think you could have wished for more confidence. You could have wished for the ability to speak your mind freely. You could have wished for anything fucking else. There's plenty of bears in the world. We just don't have one wish willows. And I like surely feel bad for Nikki because she has to live with the events that took place and she has to suffer the consequences. There's no way to live normally after the events of that film. All the girl wanted to do was write her fucking book and like leave her shitty ass customer service job. I think this is a really good film. Unfortunately, it did go over a lot of people's heads. This wasn't a BPD allegory. This wasn't real splitting. What takes over Nikki isn't like a sudden mental illness. It's a manifestation of literally a nigga's desires inside of somebody's body. So yeah, I have no big takeaway. Definitely watch this for yourself. So yeah, that is my video about Obsession. I honestly want to start doing like film reviews, specifically like horror films, because like that's what I'm into. So if you have any suggestions for any films, I'd like to hear them down below. Or if you know me, you can just like message me, like whatever. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it's been so long. It's because of employment. So thank you for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.